Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just got into a lot of different stuff about the CFP. It's going to get chaotic. There's quite a few teams that could get in as at-large bids that you probably have written off. There's a 10-2 Oregon scenario where they miss out entirely. There's 10-2 Georgia scenarios where they miss out entirely. It's going to get very weird, and we'll figure out a lot this weekend. We will reconvene next week at some point to go over all of the stuff that we know, and hopefully it's a clearer picture. It could get a lot more messy as well, so we'll keep you updated as that unfolds, obviously, but we got best bets to get to for this upcoming weekend. Still below 500, but feel pretty good about this week. Feel good as we head into this one, and I think it's going to be a very, very fun week of football. And we're going to start with USF minus 9.5 over Navy. I love this USF team. I think they're playing so confidently right now, and the big thing that I think some people are missing about this team is their defense isn't absolutely gangbusters awesome. Obviously, North Texas had quite a nice game on them. Now, a lot of that was forced because USF was up in a hurry. This is a tough defense. It's a very physical defense. And I think when you talk about Navy's offense, obviously, they want to run the ball and then bait you into stuff. Now, this is an aggressive defense for USF, so maybe they can get a couple of big plays over the top if you're Navy, but I think they're going to do pretty well at slowing down this run game. I think Eli Heidenreich is going to make a play in this game, but USF's going to be able to do enough to slow him down as best as just about anyone can, because that's a tough guy to slow down, but it's basically a playing game for the American Championship. I think USF really wants that thing. I think last year left a little bit of a bitter taste in their mouth, and they're ready to go get after it. I just love the physicality of this team, and I don't think Navy's going to be able to slow down Byron Brown. So I'll take USF to win that one by at least 10, continue to assert themselves as the best group of 5 team, definitely the best team in the American right now. Arizona Cincinnati over 56.5. This is a really fun one, and I think a lot of people are overlooking this Arizona team. They're 6-3, guys. I think a lot of people would assume that they were 4-5, that they were 3-6, because last year was rough for Brent Brennan and company, but Noah Fafita is putting together a very, very nice season. Their pass defense has been absolutely incredible with guys like Javion Cole back there. They are a very, very fun team to watch. I think Cincinnati is just a very potent offense. Now, with the Arizona back end being as good as it is, a guy to watch is Cyrus Allen. Been huge for Cincinnati this entire year. They've been able to really take the top off of defenses. Can Arizona slow that down? Now, the other problem is you got Tawee Walker back there for Cincinnati as well. I think they're going to be able to score regardless of what this thing looks like for Arizona from a defensive perspective. And then I think Noah Fafita is just playing at a very high level. And you look at the Cincinnati pass defense, it struggles quite a bit in some big-time moments. I think there's going to be a moment where Arizona is able to at least make some big-time plays, at least get the ball over the top for some big plays down the field. I think this is a fun shoot. I think we could be looking at like a 21-17 game going into half, understanding that Cincinnati's got to get this one done before they go on the road and play a very, very tough game against BYU. I'll take Georgia Tech minus 16.5 over Boston College this week. Georgia Tech coming off a bye always makes me feel good because that means Haynes King at the very least is, let's call it 85%. I feel like he's never close to 100% just the way that he plays, but at the very least, they're going to feel confident running him in this game, and they probably will have a lot of success doing it. Boston College is the 111th in run defense in the entire country. You're not facing C.J. Bailey, which makes that a whole lot easier. You're also getting back guys like Amari Harvey, Xavion Riley. It's going to be huge to get all those guys back. Jai Gilmore, another guy in that back end that missed time, and it was very noticeable in that NC State game. I think they're going to be able to do a lot of really good in this game. The other part of that is I think the committee has proven they're not, I don't want to say not taking Georgia Tech seriously, but I think Georgia Tech's going to have to earn a little bit more than some of these other teams are. We can argue about why that is. We can argue if it's warranted or not. But regardless, I think Georgia Tech has to put on a show in this one. I think they have to prove that they are not only a team that can go win games, and this might be kind of going against Brent Key's philosophy, but I think you got to lay it on this team. I think you got to go up by 30 and then try to score one more time, and then send Aaron Philo out there and say, let's go throw the football around. I really do think Georgia Tech has to go down the stretch where the committee members look at that score, because they're probably not watching the game, but that's beside the point. They look at that score at the end of the Saturday and say, man, Georgia Tech really put it on Boston College. I get it. It's Boston College, but they put up a fight against Notre Dame a couple of weeks ago. So I think Georgia Tech gets this one done. I think they put on a show and send at least a little bit of a message to the CFP committee. I'll take Iowa USC under 48.5. It's a rain play. It's going to be rainy as can be over there in LA, and it's going to be rainy before the game, so it's going to be muddy out there. It's going to be really, really gross in the Rose Bowl this time around. And that just means Kirk Ferentz is going to be playing his football game. And the biggest thing here is not to say USC can't play this game, this style of game. They can't play with Iowa. And the funny thing is, I picked Iowa yesterday. I picked this game to go over. I picked 27-24. Then I rethought that. I don't think there's going to be quite enough offense in this thing. I think I got a little ahead of myself when I was talking about this Iowa offense. But the reality is this game's going to be shortened. I think both these teams at most get about 10 possessions probably in this football game, and you got to make the most of them. King Miller on one side, Kamari Moulton on the other. I think it's going to be a run-heavy game. I just think it's going to be ugly. I think you could be getting to halftime and it's 6-3, and no one's getting anything going. Guys are barely making kicks, and they're able to open it up a little bit in the second half, able to get a little bit more comfortable, but I just don't think any offense is going to be clean in this football game. I'll take the under 48.5, and I feel pretty good about that one. I'll take Alabama, -5.5 over Oklahoma. I feel too good about this one. I think bettors know what I'm talking about when I say that. Whenever you feel really good about a bet, you start to think about betting the other side. But Oklahoma's a great team, and I think they've done a lot of really great stuff. I think they have a real shot in this football game. I keep coming back to one thing, and that's the Texas football game, and especially the Texas offensive approach. Texas couldn't run the ball, much like Alabama couldn't. Coming into that game, they had no run game to speak of. The offensive line was one of the worst in the SEC, one of the worst in the country, playing at that very moment. What they did is they didn't run the ball all that often. Now, Trey Wisner was a huge player in that game, broke off a couple of big ones that were massive, but it was the short passing game that made a difference for that team. The way that I see it, you have a better version of Arch Manning and Ty Simpson that can get the ball out quickly and accurately. You have better weapons on the outside to make plays after the catch, like Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, Isaiah Horton, all of those guys. And a guy like Josh Cuevas, I think, is huge in this football game. Nothing to take away from Jack Andrews. Was a great player, was a good player in that Oklahoma game. But I think Josh Cuevas brings a different animal to this Oklahoma defense. I think they're going to have to deal with a lot more than they had to deal with in that Texas game, and I think the Alabama offense is going to execute at a higher level. So I think Mateer will play better. There's no doubt about that. I think Mateer will give them more. Obviously, he is more healthy. I think he's going to play better football in this game. I think Jan Zapier is an absolute nightmare, and I think he's going to do enough to keep that guy in the pocket, kind of take away his legs, which is a massive piece of this run game. I think Alabama does enough defensively and kind of just schemes their way to a win here. I think Kalen DeBoer is going to watch that Texas game and say, yeah, we can do that. And they're probably going to execute at a very high level and be able to get out with at least a touchdown win here. NC State Miami over 55.5. This is a really fun game for a number of reasons, but mainly because could CJ Bailey just kind of take over the country? He gets the big-time win over Georgia Tech, kind of hobbled for the second half of that game, with just ripping balls all over the yard. Now you got a big-time shot to knock Miami out of the CFP and become kind of the big name. Now, NC State would have to contend with some people in the offseason. I think we all understand that. But at the end of the day, is a really, really tough player to play against. I think he's going to make enough plays. Now, this Miami defense has come a very long way. And obviously, with Akeem Mesidor and Ruben Bain and Keontae Scott being an elite player on the back end for this football team, they've played really, really well. I think CJ Bailey's just too tough of an athlete to bottle up all afternoon. I think he's going to be able to make enough plays with his legs. I think that wide receiver core is coming along very nicely with Takari Collins and Noah Rogers, and I believe Justin Jolie will be back for this game. I could be wrong, but I think he's going to be in the mix. It's going to be a team that I think is more dangerous than some people have respect for. The other side of that is the NC State pass defense is the worst in the ACC. I think Carson Beck has an afternoon. I think Malachi Toney has a great day. CJ Daniels, all of those guys do basically whatever they want. I mean, we saw Haynes King throw for 400 yards against this team. Not something Haynes King normally does. And a lot of that was circumstantial, but doesn't mean it wasn't super easy for Haynes King to be able to do that. I think Carson Beck has a huge afternoon. I think CJ Bailey adds on a number of highlight plays himself, and I think they at least get to 56 points in this one. Missouri, Mississippi State over 51.5, quite a few overs today. But at the end of the day, I'm very excited about this one. And that guy on the screen, number 3, is actually now with the Tigers. So that's an interesting conversation, an interesting kind of subplot as we head into this one. But Mississippi State struggled last week kind of for the first time this season, at least in a grand stand. They lost relatively big to A&M earlier in the year, but we're firmly in that game, deep into that game. So this is one of those where you just got to be able to execute quick hitters. It is kind of the same thing we just talked about with Alabama. The Missouri pass rush will take over this game if you let them. Zion Young is an absolute nightmare. Damon Wilson is not much easier to deal with. You're going to have to hit those quick slants to guys like Anthony Evans, guys like Brennan Thompson, Seydou Traore are going to be massive in this game. And I think Blake Shapen has enough. Now, could Kamario Taylor be a bigger part of this conversation because maybe his legs make that a little bit tougher on those edge defenders? That's something to watch as well. I just think they're going to come out offensively with more fire, with a better plan and execute at a higher level because I think very highly of Jeff Lebby in that offense. And then on the other side with Zollers, even with Zollers, I think they're going to be able to run the football very aggressively in this football game. We saw what Arizona State did earlier in the year. Now, it's been quite a bit of time. Mississippi State's playing better football against the run, but we also saw what Georgia and Nate Frazier was able to do last week. So I think Missouri has a day on the ground. I think they're able to score at least 27 or so points in this game. I'm going to pick Mississippi State to win it, but I think we got a shootout coming in Columbia, and I think it's going to be a really fun one. Maybe a little bit of a Matt Zollers coming out party. And then TCU plus 3.5 versus BYU. BYU comes off a very tough loss to Texas Tech. They go into a TCU team that is kind of just playing with house money the rest of the way. They're very frustrated with how the season has gone thus far, but still a very talented team. And if you allow Josh Hoover to get comfortable, it's going to be a long day for you. I can promise you that. So it's going to be really interesting to see what this TCU team has. Sonny Dykes has never had teams that kind of fold late in seasons. They always fight to the very end, and I tend to believe that's going to be the case for this one. The run defense is relatively strong for TCU. Not elite, but I think they're going to be able to do enough against, I'll say, a gimpy LJ Martin. Probably not 100%. Probably relatively close. He's had a couple of weeks to come back from that injury, but didn't look the same against Texas Tech for a number of reasons, a lot of them doing with Texas Tech. But at the end of the day, TCU's run defense is strong enough to at least get this thing off to a slow start. And BYU's kind of searching for offense late in this one. I think TCU might just win this game. I think they might just salvage their season a little bit and get a big-time win over BYU. And then you got BYU Cincinnati walking in thinking, we got to stay alive for the Big 12 championship. We lose another one, maybe Utah could back their way into this thing if Cincinnati loses to Arizona. So a lot still on the table over there in the Big 12. But at the end of the day, I'm going to pick TCU to at least cover the 3.5. I might even pick them to win, but if you'll give me the field goal and a hook, I'll take that as well. So we'll do TCU plus 3.5 there, and hopefully we can get back over 500 and get rolling as we get close to the end of the season, because we'd love to be over 500 heading into those playoff games that are going to be very hard to pick. But as we wrap this thing up, we got a special weekend ahead. I think it is a domino weekend. And I think the funny thing about dominoes, they can fall either direction. There is a chaos direction. There is a not as chaotic direction. I won't necessarily say not chaotic because it's college football. But at the end of the day, I do think you have a world where USC, Texas, Oklahoma, and Pitt all win this weekend. Now, that would clear up some things with Notre Dame. But let's just say all that happens. I don't know what the SEC looks like. The Big Ten is firmly alive for 4 teams to get into that thing, and the SEC is alive to have 7, 10, and 2 teams. I don't know what that would look like, and the ACC is still alive to get 2 teams into that thing. If Iowa, Georgia, Bama, Notre Dame win, we'll have more answers. Texas and Oklahoma will be likely out of the mix. Maybe Texas at 9-3 could get back in, but that's all very hypothetical at this very moment. Overall, it's going to be a special one. We'll be back here on Monday to break it all down. We'll get into what it means for the CFP, if it's gotten more or less murky. I tend to believe it's going to get more because that's just the way the weeks have gone thus far this season. But we'll enjoy it all. Please do enjoy it as well. We'll see you guys back here on Monday. Please do like, subscribe, comment means the absolute world to me. Want to build something special around here, and you guys liking means the world to me and definitely does help that out. So please do that. Please comment any questions you have, any grievances you have. I'm more than happy to talk it out and all of that different stuff. But please do all that stuff, and thank you so much for tuning in. See you guys on Monday to break down what I have to assume is going to be a crazy college football slate.